Hi guys, David here. Do you have to live with your airbag light on? Did it come on recently and give you a good scare? Are you worried that you're going to need to replace an airbag and it's going to cost you more than you want to pay for this old car? Well, it might be a little cheaper than you think. Unlike the Volvos of the time where you need special computers to reset the codes for the airbag, Subarus are very easy, and that might be a little bit of an understatement. So, cruise control not working? Is your horn working? If they're not, sounds like there's nothing wrong with your airbag, but in fact it's the clock spring that's out of order. Well, today I'm going to show you how to change a clock spring. First thing you want to do is disconnect the positive or negative battery terminal and keep that battery disconnected so we don't have any problems with your airbag trying to deploy. As unlikely as that can be, safety first. You're going to want to make sure that your wheels are pointing directly straight, so go ahead and straighten the wheel if you haven't already. There are two Torx screws on either side of the steering wheel that are holding the airbag in. So with our wheel straight, our airbag straight, we're going to undo both of those and pull this straight out. The electrical connector on the back of the airbag is a real pain to remove. You're going to want to slide this green piece all the way over while simultaneously pressing down on the release pin here. It's going to be really hard, especially if your hands are cold, which it's a beautiful 30-degree day today. And then that'll just come out, and we'll put this airbag somewhere. We'll store it face up so that it doesn't explode and fly away from us. Next we have our 17mm nut that is holding our steering wheel right at the center. We're going to undo that and the steering wheel should come straight out. Okay, at this point do not remove the steering wheel until you have marked its relative position so that it doesn't go back on crooked. We're going to do this with a fine point Sharpie. We're also going to want to disconnect this second white connector here because that is also attached to the clock spring and it will get in the way when we try to remove our steering wheel. Now a bit of a wiggle and it should come right out. So here's our clock spring. The connector for it is on the bottom and further back. We're going to remove the steering column cover and then we're going to loosen up a few things down here so we can slide that connector out. Down here at the very bottom of the spring you've got two arrows that line up to let you know that it's at center. This is something that you might want to keep in mind if you're removing a used clock spring so that you know that it's aligned properly. Underneath the steering we have three screws that hold the plastic cover in place. They're all Phillips heads. This procedure will apply from the 1998 to 2002 Forester on the SF chassis. It might also apply to other models since they make these cars kind of like Legos, where everything's pretty interchangeable. We don't have to remove the top piece entirely, since it's a little more difficult to do that. We're just going to lift it out of the way so that we can get to the three screws that hold in the clock spring. The wire loom for the clock spring has a yellow sheath around it, so we're going to follow that all the way back to the connector. Following the yellow connector there's an old white zip tie. Might be kind of yellowed by age, so either break that off or cut it off, whichever one works easier. We're going to remove this piece here. It's relatively easy. There's one screw here, one on the bottom right above the hood release, and on the other side there, and that should just pop right out. We'll just leave that down and out of the way so we don't have to disconnect any of the switches here. Now back in there you can see the yellow connector. After disconnecting the yellow connector you will also notice that there are some more wires going to a black connector there. That's for the cruise control part and probably for the horn relay. Disconnect that one as well. Now it should be ready to pull out. And here is our clock spring finally removed. Alright, go ahead and put the wheel back on, line it up. Attach all the plastic trim covers on the sides and on the top and bottom of the steering shaft. Make sure that the wires are fed through. This hole here and that hole there are going to have the two plastic pieces of the clock spring that attach to the metal of the steering wheel. And then you're going to want to torque that 17mm nut down to the specifications. And our next step is to reattach the airbag, and then we're going to see how it works.